second appearance in Q2 this season. Under beautiful, clear blue skies out here. In a circuit which sits very close to the beaches of Rimini, Cattolica and Riccione. Still packed with a lot of end-of-season holidaymakers. Of course, this weekend with tens of thousands of MotoGP fans who are getting their annual glimpse of the best riders in the world. Who placed then in each, your top two, as always, who will advance into our second qualifying session and then still keep themselves in the hunt for our 16th pole position of 2025. Too many pole starters, haven't we, so far this year? Just the 5, Marc Marquez 8, Quartararo 4, and one apiece for Bagnaia, Bezzecchi and Alex Marquez.
Although what we have seen in the last 5 Grand Prix is a rider come from this session, qualifying 1, to qualify on the front row of the grid. Johann Zarco did it at the Sachsenring. Pecco went from Q1 to pole back at Brno. Bezzecchi went from Q1 to the front row of the grid in both Austria and Hungary. And last time out in Barcelona, of course, we saw Fabio Quartararo go from qualifying 1 all the way to second place on the grid. It is described as something of a jungle, this qualifying 1 session, but the rewards for getting out of this session could be quite significant.
We just saw there on screen Maverick Vinales. Not really the extra 15 minutes on track that he really requires at the moment, given the fact that he's well below his peak physical best. I think it's a good fight there, isn't he, as always, on the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 machine. He was faster than his teammate Bastianini here yesterday. So here we go then, it's Fermin Aldeguer, the rookie on the 54 Gresini Racing Ducati. It's going to start the hot lap charge here this morning. Through turn 2 he goes, that's where Fernandez has already decked the new Yamaha V4 this weekend twice. Hard on the brakes and now into this tight right-hander. Turn 4, this is where Bastianini made his somewhat controversial move, flat on the last lap, to defeat Martin in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last year. Out of 6 now goes Aldeguer. On the bridge he goes through turn 7, which is just more of a flat-out high-speed king. Hard then on the brakes once again into turn 8. Now this really is a good overtaking hotspot here in Misano. Second gear just shy of 100 kilometers an hour, and then now you really do start to build up to the most spectacular part here of this Misano circuit, one of the most spectacular sections on the Grand Prix can. Let's listen to the beast.
So we'll follow the beast through turn 11, who's following Fermin Aldeguer. This is now into the right-hander of 12, and you're now gradually dropping off the speed through 13 before you really do have to brake hard and get yourself slowed down to around 65 kilometers an hour for turn 14. And Aldeguer's put a bit of distance for himself and Bastianini some way through this lap. You're going to need to be in the 130s here, surely, for a place in qualifying 2. 10th place yesterday was a 30.9, and we were doing mid-30s with Bezzecchi in pre-practice too. Aldeguer's first lap of the session is a 31.1. Not a bad first effort, but he's going to need to go quicker than that.
Half a second quicker than what he managed at the end of play yesterday, so instantly he has found a big chunk of time on the soft rear tyre. That's more like it as far as Aldeguer is concerned. Binder then with just this one KTM at his disposal in this session, with his repeated chain issues on the RC16. Nico Goya, of course, boss of both Maverick Vinales and Enea Bastianini. I think at this point of the weekend, having found himself 17 on the time sheet yesterday, Enea would have been hoping for his lucky charm, new Tech 3 boss Gunther Steiner to be here once again, because of course Steiner completing his acquisition of Hervé Poncharad's Tech 3 team last weekend out in Barcelona. While he was in attendance, and they are on his books again with the season so far. Now this is much more like it. This is the beast that we love to watch. Again, going about his business here in Misano, on course to set the best time of the session so far.
Both KTMs that we're following on screen going well. Maverick Vinales is also out there, but he was late out of the pit, so he's just on his first lap of the session at the moment. But look again, that was so often a trump card for Bastianini through that third sector, but he's lost a whole heap of time. 0.3 of a second. He's gone from a 10.5 behind Aldeguer to a 10.5 behind him.
Too twitchy, too nervous is what he said. The RC16 was doing underneath it in that third sector yesterday. Over the line he goes. It's P3 at the moment for the Beast, a 131.364. Just behind him, Oliveira's climbed up briefly into 4th place because Binder, this is excellent work by Binder, because just at the back of his mind, he will know that there's, well, any mistake on this current bike and he's going to be in a whole world of trouble. A 131.015 though, great lap that by Binder. He's almost a 10th.5 clear of Aldeguer in 2nd.
The rookies threatening place on the top 2 here. Here comes Ayagura, and he misses out by about 700ths of a second of getting ahead of his fellow rookie Aldeguer. So Agura into 3rd place, although that's some 4.5 tenths quicker than he went yesterday afternoon.
Quartararo and Viñales have both had strong first sectors. It's here where Viñales is really suffering with that lack of strength, lack of mobility, particularly on his left upper body. He's wide there going through 11. He just can't, he hasn't got the strength to muscle the KTM around the fast change of direction at the moment. Such a shame, because Viñales, well, he's the standout rider for KTM in the opening half of the season. That injury in those wet conditions in Q2 in the Sachsenring, it's going to wreck the second half of the season. Zarco was well out wide, working on the green paintwork, coming through 11.
He almost lost his first lap to track limits, and he's now lost the second, as you can see on screens, for clipping the green there. Coming through Corona, but we could be about to see the first 130 of this Q1 session from Fermin Aldeguer first. Quartararo likely to do the same. Here comes the 54 across the line to 130.852. That's much more like the kind of lap times we were expecting.
Yeah, it's almost a second quicker than anything he managed yesterday now. Compared to yesterday, is Aldeguer. Quartararo is always, so often as he does on Saturdays, rising to the occasion and once again leading the Yamaha assault. Quartararo finds a 130.8 as well. That's exactly 100th of a second clear of Aldeguer. Quartararo, first time all weekend we've seen him in the 130s.
Raul Fernandez, who has come through qualifying 1 on 4 previous occasions this season. He won't be making it 5 at the moment. He goes into 4th, so 4th and 5th for the Trackhouse Aprilias. Of course, both factory Aprilias already through. We've got Rins 6th, Bastianini only 7th from Oliveira, and Zarco, puzzlingly again, down the order, down in 9th place, which at the moment would leave him 19th on the grid.
Come after that by Raul Fernandez, because he has to be beaten up, a bit battered and bruised, having had a real heavy crash yesterday at turn 15. Second gear going through that ultimate left-hander, but you're still carrying a fair old weight of knots when you flick it left. Quartararo then in the box seat. Him and Aldeguer strongest after that opening salvo here in Q1. This is a big run coming up, isn't it, for Bastianini? 17th he was yesterday, and at the moment potentially starting his home Grand Prix. It's just down the road at nearby Rimini, so it's very much a home Grand Prix for the Beast, but he's going to be starting the sprint and the Grand Prix in 17th spot. The way it's going, not what we anticipated, not what we expected at all from the number 23.
He'd come from 16th or so on the grid to take a podium, of course. First time he raced here in MotoGP, but that was a very different MotoGP and a very different bike that Enea Bastianini was on. He's not showing signs really of getting much of a tune out of that KTM so far this afternoon. It's Fabio Quartararo. This time he's listening to some animated words rather than uttering a lot of them, as we saw in free practice 2. Of course, so fired up and so frustrated by the behaviour of his Yamaha in free practice 2 earlier on today, but you can always trust the 2021 world champion to pull out a fast qualifying lap.
Quartararo and Aldeguer have got a fair amount of breathing space in that top 2. We're just looking at Aldeguer getting himself set for his second time attack. Binder in 3rd is over a 10th.5 behind the 2 directly ahead of him, which is a pretty decent advantage to be taking into the second run. No time set so far for Maverick Viñales, who's just suffering there. Another wince, another grimace from Viñales. Talk about bad timing. It's never a good time, is it, to pick up a serious shoulder injury, but it happened right at the time where KTM started to make big progress and get an understanding of what they needed to get competitive in the RT16. I was going to say somebody's gone down, somebody has crashed out, and it's Bastianini. Well, his weekend is going from bad to worse. At best, he's going to be 17th on the grid. Surely that session over for him.
It's on his outlap. He was coming into turn 15, just knocked the temperature into those tyres. Didn't even get around to start his flying lap before he dropped it at turn 15. And Bastianini set to start way down the grid.
There has been no home comforts at all for Bastianini here this weekend. It has gone horribly wrong. On Thursday, when I spoke to him in the pre-event press conference, I mean, he was talking up the possibility of maybe even being in the mix for the victory here this weekend. Of course, buoyed by his brilliant display last Sunday in Barcelona, where he was the only rider that really early on into the mid-race point had anything for Mark and Alex. But at best, I mean, that's session over for the Beast. At best, it's going to be 17th on the grid. Couldn't get worse. Behind him at the moment, Oliveira, Zarco, Miller, Augusto Fernandez and Chantra. Certainly feel, looking at the lap times right now, that Oliveira and Zarco certainly capable of leaping ahead of Anaya.
Vinales, of course, also behind him, yet to set a time. He is still sat in the pit for the moment. Well, he's still on his Albi time, he's really planning to run again, but we haven't seen him out on the racetrack at the moment, so what a miserable weekend this is shaping out to be for Tech 3 KTM, as we now follow perhaps the one remaining KTM with a shot of Q2 in this session.
And just look how hard he is in the front end of that KTM into the tight left-hander of 8, and then just trying to pick up the throttle. Into 9 we go. This is where Mir had his heavy crash yesterday on the factory Honda, which is ruled him out of today's action. Fair play to Binder. He's leaving it all out there right now. He's in South Africa. We'll track him through the scary entry of Kibone. He's just about to complete Sector 3 right now. Is the 33. How's he faring in that third split with KTM boss Pit Byra looking on? Oh, I lost a whole chunk of time in the third sector. Biggie Binder. So this certainly not a lap that's going to be giving Quartararo and Aldeguer any cause for concern.
Zarco's just set his best first sector so far, as has Raul Fernandez. Maverick Vinales has now joined the racetrack, so he'll get one more lap in at the end. This is not going to amount to much for Brad Binder. It's a 31.6, and all of that time, as you saw, was lost in the third sector. He's got 2 more cracks at this.
Yeah, having a right crack at it is Raul Fernandez on the trackhouse of Aprilia. He's looking really rattled. As you mentioned, a real cage-rattling crash for him yesterday at turn 15. Full commitment on the 25 Aprilia through Kibone. How's he got on in this third sector? Fernandez are now into the first gear, turn 14. This is brilliant by Fernandez. The trackhouse rider at the moment on track for Q2, no question. Just one corner now left for him to negotiate. He'll flick it left. A little bit unstable, a little bit unsteady on the brakes into turn 16, but from 4th into 3rd. Wow. Oh, lost all the time in the 4th sector. Fernandez missing out by just over a 10th, so Quartararo and Aldeguer can breathe a sigh of relief.
Zarco only went 7th for 31.2 for him. He's got to find 4.5 tenths if he's going to make Q2. Ayagura needs to find around about 2 tenths. He's gone into 5th, 3rd and 5th for Trackhouse now.
So Zarco's improvement does make it worse for Bastianini. That has now pushed the Italian then back into 18th place, as we feared it probably would do. A day to forget so far, a weekend to forget so far for Bastianini. What about Binder? We'll track him over the line now. 4th place, nothing going on this lap as far as the South African is concerned. It looks like there's going to be no Q2 spot for Binder. Just making sure he's going to be safely through. It's Quartararo, we're on board with him now, powering out of turn 8. He was already leading this session with that early 1:30.842.
Rule out Ayagura from a shot at this year. He's on a very good lap. He's pretty much matched Quartararo through the first 2 sectors. Zarco, as you can see, also on an improvement. And this is the sector where Quartararo has been gaining on everyone else. He certainly doesn't lack commitment through Kibone, turn 11, millimetres to spare on the outside as he came dangerously close to the green.
Flirting with Zarco on the track, and Zarco hasn't got a prayer of getting himself into Q2. Understand he hasn't at the moment. Here's Agura then. Moto 2 world champion of 2024. So clean, so neat on top of that Aprilia, isn't he? Aguirre. Oh, he sets the exact same lap time as his Trackhouse teammate Raul Fernandez, 1:30.977, as Oliveira jumps up into third place. Quartararo then did improve his late speed. He jumps down to a 1:30.671. Quartararo, without any question, has got a place in Q2. Oliveira was really close. A great late effort by the Portuguese rider. A 1:30.944, missing out by just 900ths behind Aldeguer.
Vinales, he's not giving up. Despite the pain and discomfort he's in, he is still having a right good go at this. He's got no time next to his name at the moment. The only valid lap he does in this session could have been the fastest one.
He's always been suffering though in sector 3. This is where he's had his big issues with that left shoulder problem. Bastianini, fair play to him, he did get back out on circuit on the spare. Tech 3 KTM, yeah, once again, a whole chunk of time is lost by Vinales in the third split. So this won't be good enough, unfortunately. Fabio Quartararo's best lap has been scrubbed off, so his 1:30.671 has gone. Thankfully for Quartararo's sake, that's not going to cost him a place into Q2. Vinales then does rescue 7, some effort that, fair play. Top job by the Top Gun. Goodness, for Quartararo, absolutely flying here, Fabio Quartararo. This could be the best time of the weekend. Marc Marquez, fastest yesterday with a 1:30.480. Quartararo on the factory Yamaha out of the final corner. Over the line he goes, 1:30.481. He misses out by a thousandth of a second. That's a nice little water settler for Q2 coming up, isn't it?
Quartararo cruising through. Look at his face. I think he took his brain out, to use the MotoGP analogy there, to get that lap on the board. I don't even think he knows quite how he did. A 1:30.481. Clearly, rather riled up is the 2021 World Champion. He absolutely walked it.
Well, at the end of his first run, he did a 1:30.8, then down to a 1:30.6, which he lost for track limits, and then down to a 1:30.4. So there were big steps forward in that session. Big leaps in terms of lap times gained by Quartararo. He's such a joy to watch, isn't he? Such a pleasure to watch when he's in full flow, when he's wrestling that Yamaha around any racetrack in the world, when he's getting everything out of his massive talent pool. Quartararo once again with another top job then here in Q1. And he's 0.4 of a second clear of Aldeguer, who does squeeze through into Q2. Excellent job that by the Gresini Racing rider. He's gone 0.8 of a second faster than anything he managed yesterday. Just missing out, well, was Oliveira, Fernandez, and Aguirre, Andrea Dovizioso. He liked that lap, didn't he, from Quartararo. Dovi was always one of the smartest operators we've ever seen in MotoGP. He knows how hard Quartararo had to work for a 1:30.481 here in Misano. As we mentioned, Oliveira missing out by just 900ths. He was only 300ths clear of Fernandez and Aguirre, the two Trackhouse riders, setting the exact same time, 4th and 5th respectively. Well, we thought it was going to be a pretty painful experience after his turn 15 crash at the start of his second run for Bastianini, and that is exactly how it panned out. The Beast was 17th, and when he was in the gravel at turn 15, he dropped down to 10th, which means he's 20th on the grid.
But Fabio Quartararo still has a chance of starting right at the front, and as mentioned, the last 5 Q1s have seen a rider go through and qualify in the front row. Quartararo by nearly 0.4 from Fermin Aldeguer. Miguel Oliveira so nearly into Q2, but misses out. Third for him, ahead of the Trackhouse Aprilias on identical times. Brad Binder and Maverick Vinales on their KTM 6th and 7th. Alex Rins and Johan Zarco next up. Bastianini paying a heavy price for his crash, 10th. Jack Miller only 11th. After we saw him crash late in FP2. Augusto Fernandez on the V4, 12th. And Solskjaer Chantra bringing up the rear again, 13th.
So Fabio Quartararo already on pole position in 4 Grand Prix so far this year, still firmly in the game for yet another pole position in 2025 here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli. He has delivered something special once again on Sprint Saturdays has the flying Frenchford. Quattararo and Aldeguer then go through in. Off the shot of the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. We're flying above one of the best venues on the Grand Prix calendar, who will be flying very, very short. To pole position, the Red Bull Grand Prix of San Marino. We have already seen Fabio Quattararo and Fermin Aldeguer safely get themselves out of what was always going to be a tough Q1 session. Home fans at the moment are suffering a little bit here. Sprint Saturday morning after Enea Bastianini had a thoroughly miserable 15-minute session in Q1. A late crash at turn 15 left the beast only 10th fastest on the timesheets in the opening 15-minute session. That, of course, translates into a 20th place starting position on the grid. For the 13-lap sprint this afternoon at 3 p.m. local time, and for the 27-lap main Grand Prix here tomorrow. That is a star-studded Q2, isn't it? Marc Marquez, Bezzecchi, who led the way in FP2 this morning. Morbidelli fastest in FP1 yesterday. A revitalised, we hope, Pecco Bagnaia. Barcelona winner, Alex Marquez. Luca Marini, Jorge Martin, the world champion. Pedro Acosta, Fabio De Gianantonio, Fabio Quattararo and Fermin Aldeguer in this battle. Well, what we were hoping was going to be a 12-rider battle for pole position here this morning. Sadly, though, no Joan Mir. A pain in the neck, unfortunately, after his crash at turn 9 yesterday. After consulting with the medical team here in Misano and with HRC, Mir, with some mobility issues in that neck, has decided to withdraw from today's action. Fingers crossed, we've seen Joan ready to fight for points in the 27-lap Grand Prix here tomorrow. Well, already so far this year there has been 8 pole positions that have gone the way of Marc Marquez. He has taken 15 sprint podiums. He has not as yet Saturday afternoon's finished lower than second, has he? And he's on this amazing run of 8 successive sprint victories. Super Saturdays have been Marc's domain, haven't they? For so much of 2025. He looked fantastic yesterday, led the way with a 1:30.480. There are lots of Italians, though, hungry for home success here this weekend, led by Marco Bezzecchi, who've had his best Friday on the factory Aprilia here yesterday, second fastest at the end of play. He has led this morning's FP2, also looking sharp, Morbidelli and Marini. I think Marc's going to have this all his own way, Lewis.
No, he's certainly going to have to nail the perfect lap in this qualifying session. His race pace looks exceptionally strong. He's got to get qualifying right, and as much as he may have had 8 pole positions this season, only one of those has come in the last 4 Grand Prix. Of course, crashed in qualifying 2 in Brno. He only managed 4th on the grid in Austria, and then was beaten by both Alex Marquez and this man in qualifying a week ago. And we probably have to factor this man into the equation too, Fabio Quattararo, after the lap time he just set in qualifying 1, just 1,000th of a second slower than Marc Marquez's fastest lap time of the weekend. And if Marc Marquez isn't the king of qualifying, then that honour might well go to Fabio Quattararo.
Well, last year we got ever so close to our first ever 1:29 lap here in Misano. Pecco Bagnaia 1:30.031. Are we going to see a 1:29 in this upcoming Q2 session? There was late drama for the reigning world champion Martin in that 30-minute FP2, which kicked off our MotoGP action here this morning. Martin taking a fall at the first corner. Yeah, he was okay. Find out shortly, I'm sure, whether he's got both of his factory Aprilias available. There are your most recent pole sitters. Pecco Bagnaia did the double on our 2 visits to Misano here last year. looking like there was light at the end of what's been a dark tunnel of late for the double world champion. Bagnaia was 4th fastest yesterday, only 300 of a second away from the top 3. Can Bagnaia find himself on pole position for just his 2nd time in 2025?
Well, he knows whatever happens, he's going to be qualifying better than he has in the last couple of Grand Prix. 15th in qualifying in Hungary, 21st he qualified a week ago for the Catalan Grand Prix. So whatever happens, Pecco Bagnaia won't be as deep on the grid as that, but he'll be eyeing minimum front 2 rows of the grid here, if not the front rows. Who are on board with Alex Marquez, who ended a long drought for a pole position since the beginning of 2023. Last weekend in Barcelona. It feels like he might want to be one of the outside bets this time, though.
So under the scorching hot sunshine here in San Marino, it's Q2 time in MotoGP. Marc Marquez, a massive 182 points clear in the title chase. Mark needs just 3 points here this weekend in Misano, which should be easy pickings given his unbelievable record so far this year, to set himself up for match point number 1 over in Motegi in a couple of weeks' time. Has to leave this Grand Prix here in Misano 148 points or more clear of Alex. He can be celebrating next time out, and we start our 4-race flyaway tour of Japan, Indonesia, Australia and Malaysia.
Interesting little sideshow going on here on the outlaps. Quartararo's leading this queue of riders. Marc Marquez is next behind him. Then Alex, who's right behind Marc. And Jorge Martin looked like he was trying to follow the Marquez brothers, and Pedro Acosta's just punched himself right in the middle of them. So he's now right behind the Marquez brothers. A fast 5 that are now out on track. Quartararo set to lead them onto their first flying lap.
Might be worth noting that in practice yesterday, Marc Marquez did only use one soft rear tyre to deliver his 130.480. So potentially he's got the rubber available if he does fancy a 2-stop strategy here. The number 93, as now he builds up speed then on the factory Ducati, going in search of what will be his 75th MotoGP pole position. He's already topped into, will pop over the century mark avenue of career poles with 102. So watches just one rider need. Through turn 6, there you go then. On board with Marc, and now you really do start to build up some momentum. Down this sweep through turn 7, about 300 kilometers now. You are just under that Red Bull branded bridge. On the brakes are now into 8, where we've seen Marc Alex moves as Marc made down the years on the brakes into that left-hander of 8.
He's got a good start going to this lap, a 25.4 through the first sector. That's faster than his best first sector that he did in practice yesterday, when of course he ended up fastest overall. He's ahead of Alex Marquez too through the second sector, around about a couple of tenths between them. We haven't got a Checo Quartararo at the moment, who certainly started the lap off the road. So we now follow Marc Marquez through a sector where he was struggling for much of the day yesterday, but certainly got the hang of it by the time he completed after the practice.
Coming to the part of the circuit where Alex said yesterday he was just on another level. Guess what? 2 left-handers. Here through 15 he goes. Now through 16. The other Ducati riders can see the data. They can see in just these 2 corners alone, it's where Marc is gaining so much time compared to everybody else. And his opening time in this session, straight away into the mid-130 to 130.624 ahead of Alex and Bez. Alex also himself into the 130s, just 200s between the 2 brothers at the top.
Quartararo did bail out of that first lap. He was, of course, leading that train, so he's 9th at the moment, but not a representative lap time. Mir, of course, won't come out of the pits. Fermin Aldeguer also gets to emerge for his first run. Of course, he'll also be short of tyres after coming through Q1.
We're looking at Marc and Alex once again, 93 versus 73. Took their way through the left-hander of turn 8. Both on course to improve on their pair of 136s, which kicked off their Q2 session here in Misano. It's going to be so much. I think we stay with the helicopter now. You're going to get an indication of just how fast and how scary it is at tipping there. Just shy of 300 kilometers an hour when they flip it right into Cavone. Through 12 now, then you continue just to scrub off speed through 13, then back to the first gear turn 14. Full Mark is really pushing in. Hot laps coming in from Acosta and Bezzecchi. Mark's rolled out of it.
Yeah, and Alex is going to beat him comfortably on this lap. We might be very close to the 129s here. If Alex Marquez can continue to build up in this final sector. Mark got a bit of wheelie coming out of Tremonto, so I don't know whether that was why he lost a little bit of time. Alex Marquez, a 1:30.222, the fastest lap time of this weekend so far.
Bagnaia briefly was on the front row. Bezzecchi comes over the line. He's fighting a 1:30.394. On that lap by Alex, of course, he spent the majority of it towing his brother Mark, but a 1:30.222. As we inch ever closer to Bagnaia's all-time lap record, Acosta's got himself up into third place. That's a brilliant job by the Spaniard. We haven't seen Acosta qualify on the front right of the grid at any stage in 2025 so far this year. He's best qualifying fourth on the grid all the way back at round 3 in Austin. A 1:30.4 has got Acosta inside the top 3.
So Marc Marquez currently in 7th place, which would be a worst qualifying of 2025, although he certainly has a little bit more pace up his sleeve. Decided to pull in rather than complete that lap, which would have been faster than the last time he was on had he not bailed out of it, just approaching turn 14 as we follow Quartararo, who's continuing to push on and potentially pushing on to a place back on the front row of the grid here.
Somewhat, isn't it? All action. Quartararo now aggressive, hard on the front end of that Yamaha into turn 14. How good is in the front end of the M1 last weekend in Barcelona to get that best ever sprint finish in second. He's quite looking nervous as he's aggressive on the slick left into the final corner. 8th at the moment on the standings is Quartararo. That's where he stays put for now. It's almost a full calendar year since Acosta found himself starting a MotoGP race on the front row. That was, of course, in Motegi, where it went rather spectacularly wrong after his qualifying brilliance over in Japan, pushing out of victory contention in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. So that's the opening laps completed then here in Misano, and at the end of it, it's a 1:30.222 for a rider who's got so many P2s in 2025. At the moment, Alex Marquez well on course for back-to-back pole positions. 2 in the space of a week, beckoning here for 73.
Yeah, maybe changing his name from Mr. P2 to Mr. Q2 if he can keep this up and running. At the moment, it's Ducati, Aprilia, KTM on the front row of the grid. It's not Ducati second row with Morbidelli, Bagnaia and Di Giannantonio. Marquez, Quartararo and Marini on the third row. Marini a little bit of a surprise, not only to see him in 9th at the moment, but he's only found a 1:31.1 on his first lap. Marini was well into the 1:30s yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, Marino was saying yesterday he feared that qualifying was going to be one of the toughest sessions of his weekend. But there is still rather glaring weakness for Honda. He still believes it is their performance in all that time attack on a soft rear tyre. So you always see the bunch of Ducatis make big leaps forward, don't you, on Saturdays and onwards. So at the moment, we've got the thumbs up from the Aprilia management. Well, yesterday, it was teamwork that made the dream work. It was the Bezzecchi and Martin tandem show, which got both of them into this Q2 session. To get both of them maybe on the front row. We're certainly hoping to get Martin inside the top 6.
This time it's Mark coming out behind Alex, having gone out the other way on their first runs. Luca Marini just going through the foreground there. So Marc Marquez is in a position where he certainly has to push now on this final lap. As much as I'm sure he'd be fairly confident of challenging for the win from 7th on the grid, it would be the first time, as mentioned, in 2025 we've seen him as low on the grid as that.
Probably easy to reel Alex in here. It's got an advantage of not far shy of a couple of tenths. 0.172. The second he is clear of Bezzecchi. Quartararo then heads out for his final attack in this Q2 session. And there is Alex then as they start the charge now down towards turn 8. Bagnaia at the moment in 5th place, which would certainly stop his recent qualifying woes as Alex decides just to close the throttle. He's not going to give any helping hand, is he, to the Mark at the moment.
We'll see what sort of formation they're in when the lap begins, because once again, Pedro Acosta has played a bit of a canny game and latched onto the tail of the Marquez brothers, as he did on the first runs. Pecco Bagnaia then starts his second run, looking to lift himself up from 5th place. He won't be doing that.
That went wrong. He was a little bit sideways, wasn't he? Otzi. Oh, frustrated. Really frustrated. He had to turn away from the looking at the screens there, didn't he? The Ducati team manager. So working in perfect harmony once again are the factory Aprilias. And once again, it's Marco Bezzecchi. I was going to say Bez got it wrong on the brakes, didn't he, going into turn 1? So he just takes the safest possible route through the first sector. Decides to let off the brake and run off the circuit.
Marc Marquez is now ahead of Alex Marquez on the racetrack, so they have swapped positions. Acosta's now between them on the racetrack, so Alex is not providing any kind of tow or reference to Marc Marquez. He's, of course, currently on provisional pole. Marc looking to take it off him.
Do you know what? Marc's pushing big time. You can see that Rio is already spinning up underneath him going through turn 3. Great shot that from the overhead helicopter. Yeah, they are now starting to put Alex's 130.222 under some serious threat. Alex is not really hanging about himself, is he? Just out of your picture here as they exit turn 8. At the moment, it's Marc versus Acosta, you feel, in this battle, this current battle for pole.
Third sector when it's pulled out some time over Marc on the previous lap. Of course, we know that Alex is so good in the fast right-handers versus Marc, and that's what this third sector is full of. 11 is completed, now into 12, as Marc Marquez is laying it all on the line to try and deny his brother pole position.
Yes, Acosta behind him as well. He had a big shake going through Cavone. He's leaving it all on the line here. Acosta, I was going to say, Acosta was really messy, really scrappy going through the fast rights, and the pace ahead of him as he tries to hang on to Marc was just simply too hot to handle. So Acosta goes down while in 3rd place. How decisive could that be as far as he's concerned? Marc moves up from 7th to 2nd with a 130.352. That's his best time of the weekend so far. But it was clear, you could see how hard Acosta was pushing through the fast rights to run with Marc, and then just going through 14. Such an easy mistake to make, trail braking into that first gear 14, and unfortunately down he went.
Yeah, into turn 14. It's slow crash, but a damaging one for Pedro Acosta. Front end folds through the 60km/h turn 14, and with it go hopes, I think, of a place on the front of the grid, although he has continued. But the pole position of Alex Marquez coming into some threat now from Bezzecchi on the Aprilia, who's up halfway round, and Gian Antonio also threatening a dart at the front row of the grid.
Well, it was his first MotoGP pole position in 50 Grand Prix last weekend in Barcelona. It's like London buses, isn't it? You wait an age for one to turn up, and then 2 come along at the same time. What about Bagnaia? 6th up to 4th. And of course, he's still got 2.5 minutes of this session remaining. Although he runs in hot though once again into the 3rd corner. Back to the Gian Antonio. Digia on the front row most recently in Hungary. He drops the rear right height device on the 49 bike. Over the line he goes. Stays in T7 at 130.535. Something happened to Bezzecchi in sector 3 because Bez was flying in the first half of his last lap. But here comes Quartararo, Fabio Quartararo. Surely not. Having looked lost and all at sea on practice Friday here yesterday. He wasn't even sure whether he was going to qualify with the medium or the soft tyre. So lost was Quartararo yesterday. But once again, having come through Q1 with the fastest time. Surely this is not a 5th pole position of the season coming from Quartararo. You can't rule anything out, can you, when the factory Yamaha ride is about in qualifying.
If there's anyone can do it, Fabio Quartararo is your man. Morbidelli's onto the front row now in 3rd. He's back to 30.3. Bezzecchi super strong through the first sector, but he's going to have to try and manage that and try and get the 3rd sector right, as he didn't on the previous lap. Front row certainly possible, pole improbable, but this is Fabio Quartararo we're talking about. He goes into 2nd place.
You know what, Marc Marquez might be getting bumped off the front row here, because Marco Bezzecchi, if he carries this lap on through, he is going to smash Alex Marquez out of pole position.
He's going quicker too.
Here comes Bez, the Gian Antonio we're looking at right now. Curious to see how Bez gets on this time around in the 3rd sector. He's lost time, but this is going to be close. This is going to be tight. The Gianantonio looking to make progress from the middle of the third row of the grid. Out of the final corner, he goes right now. And Didier does move at one row, then up to sixth place. All eyes, though, on Bez. Fifth fastest at the moment, and he has taken it. Brilliant by Marco Bezzecchi. What a last sector. What a last lap by the home hero. A 1:30.134 has got him on pole right now. Alex Marquez has lost time in sector 3, so that could be it. Well, Quattararo once again is on a strong final lap. Bezzecchi, though, at the moment on course for a fairy tale pole here in Misano.
Did Jorge Martin provide that crucial little bit of slipstream on the way down to Carbone? It was 900ths of a second between the Aprilias. Martin paying back his teammate for the help yesterday.
Look at this, though, by Fabio Quattararo. He's just come through the third sector. He's up by 0.03 of a second, according to our timing screen monitors. Is there going to be the ultimate game clashing of the Bezzecchi and Aprilia party here in Misano by Fabio Quattararo? Out of the final corner, he goes on the factory Yamaha over the line.
Now,
Quattararo takes the checkered flag. It's still a phenomenal P3 for the Frenchman, having come once again out of Q1. He's a bit frustrated right now, but he still produced another brilliant performance. Bagnaia was as high as 4th, wasn't he, in the early part of this session. Pushed back down to 7th, and he cannot improve. So Bagnaia will head row 3. Marc Marquez once again finds himself starting in P4, just as he did in Silverstone, Assen, and at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Well, that was awesome. That was spectacular, wasn't it, from Marco Bezzecchi? What a performance. A 1:30.134, just outside of the all-time lap record. He produces the big stand-up wheelie after taking pole position number 6 in MotoGP. Takes his career tally into double figures. That was his 10th pole for Bezzecchi.
Marini's
Absolutely
just gone
awesome.
6th, by the way, on the Honda. So we've now got Marini 6th. Bagnaia back down to 8th. So we've got a brilliant Ducati Yamaha front row, Ducati Honda on your second row. Bagnaia 8th. Acosta's price that he's paid for that crash is 9th place on the grid. Aldeguer 10th from Martin and Mir, who of course never took part in that session. Well, boy, did teamwork play out for Aprilia this weekend. Bezzecchi towed Martin into Q2 yesterday, and Martin maybe provided that crucial slipstream for Bezzecchi to take pole today.
Let's go and get the thoughts then of, I'm sure, an ecstatic team boss, Massimo Riva, who's with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant job by Marco. He helped Jorge yesterday, Jorge helped him today. Massimo, pole position in Misano. That's a special one.
Quite special. We always said that it is not our track, but clearly it's Marco's track. But it's good to see Aprilia going to this level. I'm super happy about the attitude of the two, because Jorge was humble enough to understand that Marco had the chance to do it and he didn't, and he delivered. So super team job. I'm super proud of my guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second pole in the last 4 Grand Prix for Bezzecchi, rebounding quite superbly from a miserable weekend in Barcelona. Tell you what, the big loser in that session was Acosta. Pedro Acosta was 3rd along the front row when he crashed out trying to go with Marc Marquez late on in that turn 14 drama. But Marco Bezzecchi, well, he's going to enjoy every single inch of this cool down lap around this 4.226 kilometre Misano circuit, because that was some lap. One of the best qualifying laps of his life, without any question. As we just mentioned, this happens too often, doesn't it? Acosta, we know, is so strong, but he makes key mistakes at key moments of the weekend. Cash your minds back to Hungary just a couple of rounds ago. That stage he was 3rd, as he mentioned, slips off and drops back down to 9th on the grid. Fabio Quattararo has delivered more brilliance for Yamaha through Q1 fastest, and once again got the front row. How's he keep doing it? Just about to fly up with the boss, Mike Marigali.
Yeah, it's a good question as Fabio rolls into Parc Ferme. Yesterday we asked him, Fabio, you managed to turn it around Friday to Saturday in Barcelona. Can you do it again tomorrow? And he said, no chance. We're lost. We're completely lost. So how on earth can we have the front row?
I just said that he's crazy like a horse. I don't know how he was able to turn it around, and this morning it was just more quiet. They really analyze all the information that we gathered yesterday. We also guide him in a way, but then he did it by himself. It's incredible.
it's difficult to find the right words to describe what he has been able to do.
Shouldn't be surprised he does it so often, but he's done it again. Well done, Maya.
Thank you, mate.
He has done it again. He has delivered once again on Sprint Saturday morning, says Quartararo. Second in the sprint last weekend in Barcelona. It was his best ever sprint. Only his third sprint, only been 54. And not very often that we see Quartararo in the medal ceremony. He's got a great chance. It was close. There was only 900th of a second splitting your top three on the front row. Bezzecchi, Alex and Quartararo. Just listen to what it means to the factory, a brilliant team here on home soil. And more power to Bez, because as we mentioned, talking to Kevin Schwantz yesterday, it was so long he was trying to get accustomed to the added pressure, the added responsibility of being a factory rider for the first time in his career this year. Certainly not helped at all by the long-term absence of his teammate Jorge Martin. It was a responsibility which he embraced. And you know what? Third place is not without his grasp, is it, at all, in this year's World Championship. Bagnaia suffered late on. He was as high as fourth, wasn't he? He dropped back in that frantic finale down to eighth. The best qualifying result with Honda for Luca Marini. 3 VR46 riders starting their home Grand Prix in the top 6. Old for Bez, doesn't get any better than that, does it? Morbidelli 5th, and Marini 6th fastest for Honda. Another top job by Luca.
Super strong in that third sector, as you saw there on screen, but all it would have taken today is you miss an apex by half a metre, break a metre or two later or earlier than you need to, and it can take you a row further back on the grid. Quartararo and Alex Marquez both on 30.2s. Marc Marquez, Morbidelli, Marini and Digia all on 30.3s. Bagnaia and Acosta on 30.4s. The slightest of mistakes this morning has paid serious dividends. Bagnaia and Acosta on row 3 when they only needed another 10th to be challenging for the front row.
Yeah, surprised there was no significant big gain from Marc this morning compared to yesterday. Bezzecchi and Alex first and second, though, well, they both shaved off half a second compared to yesterday. Marc himself was only about a 10th faster than what he managed yesterday. Yeah, that's top quality. Brilliant by Bez. That's how you bounce back from your worst weekend of the season. A double DNF last time out at the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia, but he has done it again. How does he keep doing it? Fabio Quartararo through Q1 on the front row, and he's with Jack.
Fabio, we asked you yesterday if a magic comeback was possible, and you said no, but you've done it anyway. How do you keep on doing this on a Saturday?
I prefer to say no and then do it, you know. But yeah, to be honest, I think was one of the toughest weekends we've had during this season. But we managed to make it very well. We worked really good with the team yesterday to try to avoid the issues that we had. But yeah, you know, I always put a lot of energy on one lap. I know it's my strongest point. But today I didn't expect to make P3, and especially this lap time. I made a few mistakes, but thanks to the team that really made a great job, my crew chief, my engineers. So yeah, let's see what we can do on the race.
Another brilliant job. Well done.
It really was another stunning performance by Fabio Quartararo. His 8th front row start now in 2025. Back-to-back front rows after his brilliant second place on the grid last weekend in Barcelona. Used that as a platform to take his best sprint result, 5th in the Grand Prix as well, wasn't he, last time out? That was only his 4th top 6 of the season on a Sunday. Well, a special home race helmet from Bez and a special home race Q2 performance from the number 72. Looking forward to getting his thoughts on just his 6th career pole position in MotoGP. So close to back-to-back poles, wasn't he, in the space of a week for Alex Marquez. Second, though, he is here in Misano, and he joins Jack.
Alex, so close to back-to-back pole positions inside a week, just narrowly missing out to Marco, but we know this isn't one of your favourite tracks, so I imagine really pleased to be on the front row.
Yeah, really important. I mean, we know that here to win front row is super important for the first lap, for the start, for the first three corners that always are tricky. But anyway, I mean, I didn't expect to win front row today. I was struggling quite a lot this morning, not in the first run, but yeah, in the second one. But we put everything more or less together. It's true that we missed something on T4 to win the pole, but anyway, I'm super happy with a proper job, and we're looking forward for the sprint race.
Great job, well done.
Thank you, thank you.
As you saw on that graphic there, thanks Jack, thanks Alex. The sector graphic clearly showing, as we saw in Barcelona last weekend through fast right-handers, Alex is right on the money. As he said, missing a little bit in sector 4, which includes turns 15 and 16, which are left-handers, which compared to brother Mark, and one of his weaker points. Close though, wasn't it? Only 800ths away from back-to-back pole positions. He's in the game though, as the packed beaches of nearby Rimini, Riccione and Cattolica. Put yourself off the beach and come and see some MotoGP action, because you will not be disappointed. 13 laps of course, the sprint here this afternoon, and leading the field away in the main Grand Prix as well tomorrow. He knows this Misano circuit better than he knows the back of his hand, is Marco Bezzecchi. Almost his second home. Spends as much time lapping this Misano track as he does his own bed, I think, nearby. Does the factory a prettier start. He had his best Friday of the season so far yesterday, when he was second fastest to Marc Marquez. But he's gone one better here this morning. What a performance by Marco Bezzecchi on pole position in Aprilia's home Grand Prix and his home Grand Prix. And he joins Jack.
Marco, what a job. You helped Jorge yesterday, and you got a little bit of help from him on that amazing final lap to be on pole position in your home Grand Prix, Aprilia's home Grand Prix. How special does this feel?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I made a very good lap, a very good morning overall. Very happy about my performance. Also, the team obviously made a wonderful job, and the bike was very good. So yeah, I enjoyed riding. The fans are always a lot, day by day, more and more. So happy to make a good show for them, and now we have to concentrate for the race this afternoon and especially tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, cracking job. And a kiss for our camera down in Parc Ferme. This was Jorge Martin giving a little bit of a helping hand. You could just see how hard Bez was pushing on that Aprilia. It was all out of shape, wasn't it? All crossed up as he was on the gas coming out of Tremonto. He was digging deep. He was going all in, wasn't he, for pole position here in front of his home crowd. Then a couple of mistakes on that lap. Well, we could have seen an all-time lap record. We might have even seen a 1:29, but it was brilliant by Bez. Absolutely sensational. That's their test rider Lorenzo Savadori in the cap and the headset, quite rightly giving Bez a round of applause. Massimo Riva, of course, the Aprilia boss, with the work of Bez, but also with the cohesion inside that factory Aprilia garage, the harmony existing between Bezzecchi and Martin, career-long rivals, of course, in Moto3 and in Moto2, but working in tandem together here in Misano to help Marco Bezzecchi secure a superb pole position. Looking forward to this afternoon sprint now with Bez, Alex and Quartararo on the front row of the grid. Work to do for our runaway world championship leader Marcus. He heads row 2 in second. He's got two Italians looking to make a big name for themselves on home turf. Morbidelli and Marini, the company on that second row. Gian Antonio heads row 3 clear of Bagnaia. Pedro Acosta will be kicking himself. He'll be cursing himself for that mistake at turn 14. On the front row, when he dumped it behind Mark, finds himself at the back of row 3 in 9th place. Just look what it means though to Marco Bezzecchi and the factory Aprilia team to take a pole position in their home Grand Prix. That's only part of the job done now with a 13-lap sprint this afternoon later.
Pole position number 6 then for Marco Bezzecchi in MotoGP. Alex Marquez and Fabio Quartararo completing the top 3. Quartararo ensuring that for the 6th Grand Prix weekend in a row, a rider goes from Q1 to the front row. Marc Marquez 4th from Frankie Morbidelli and Luca Marini. Gian Antonio 7th, head of Bagnaia 8th for the Costa, who crashed at turn 14. 9th Aldeguer, Martin and Mir 12th, although Mir won't start there in the sprint. He will be back, we hope, tomorrow. Miguel Oliveira equaling his best qualifying of 2025 in 13th, ahead of the Trackhouse producer, set identical times. Binder 16th from Vinales, Rins. Johan Zarco down in 19th place, his worst qualifying of the season. Bastianini only 20th after he crashed on his outlap on the final run of Q1. Miller, Augusto Fernandez and Songkyak Chantra will start up behind him. The BMW M Award then, Marc Marquez will soon be accepting the keys to his brand new car, although he did lose some of his advantage today. Alex Marquez now 63 points behind. Fabio Quartararo third, with Pecco Bagnaia in fourth. Bezzecchi climbs today up into fifth.
So enjoy your lunch break here in Misano. Get stuck into a nice pizza or piadina or a nice plate of pasta and get yourself primed and ready in just over 3 hours' time as we get set for our 16th Tissot sprint action of 2025. Can Marc Marquez be on cloud 9 and take a 9th successive sprint victory as he looks to secure match point number 1 when we head off on the overseas flyaway tour to Japan, to Indonesia a week off. Then we continue our globe-trotting down under to Phillip Island in Australia. Then to Sepang. Well, we will see you this afternoon. Marco Bezzecchi on pole position.